Who exactly am I? The answer to this is usually taken for granted by us. Of course, my name is so and so, and that is who exactly I am, right? Further, what makes me unique is where and when I was born, where I currently live, all the things I have accomplished in my life, and my friends and family members who can stand witness to some or all of the above. However, just as how an actor in a movie has a certain name in the movie and acts totally like that character, and yet we all know that their real identity is different and sometimes quite the opposite to the character portrayed. What if the truth of my identity is similar? Imagine that all of my identity documents are somehow destroyed and no person in the world steps forward to confirm my identity. Well, I think that in such a scenario, I would at least be able to call my body and my mind as mine. But are any of those exactly who I am? My body was around 1.5 feet tall when I was born, around 6 feet by the time I became an adult, and would one day be reduced to ashes, or at least just the bones. Thus, my body is a thing that constantly changes and cannot be exactly who I am. Next up, neither the 5 senses of sight, touch, smell, hearing, or taste, nor any combination of those, are exactly who I am, as otherwise the loss of any of them would result in a complete loss of my exact identity. I am also not exactly just my mind, as if this was the case, then why does this mind have no words to describe the deep sleep I had last night, while I know that when I have a restful sleep, a part of it was spent in deep sleep, in which I do not cease to exist, but my mind surely does. Similarly, thoughts can also not exactly be who I am, as those also disappear during deep sleep, and from simpler to understand experiences, my thoughts on even things like clothes, music, politics, and other topics continually changed as I grew older. By now, I have seen how the ever-changing body, mind, and thoughts are not who exactly I am, but rather similar to clothes I wear, which I make use of, and which are a certain way today, and perhaps completely different tomorrow. Now I might question myself as to why these ever-changing things, or maybe the collection of all of them, can't be who I exactly am. After all, I am a human, the only being on earth conscious of its own existence, and ought to be special enough to pull a complex feat like this, at least from my own perspective. However, if I really am all that which continually changes, then who is that who is able to notice this by looking at the collection of these changes, then calling that my life experience, and finally labeling it as my true identity? Going back to the example of deep sleep, isn't the same observer present there, and which every morning just knows that there was a restful state called deep sleep that I went through, even if I have nothing to speak of it and no experience to share about it? In fact, isn't this the same observer which is continuously here and now at all times and perceives all experiences and even non-experiences such as deep sleep? Further, could this observer have ever changed through time and space? If it did change in any shape or form that I can speak of, and let's just say, for example, that this observer was born and would someday die, then there has to be some other observer which must be there to notice this change. In essence, to be able to say that a change has happened, wouldn't it be necessary for something to be there that never changes? A good analogy for this would be the TV screen. All kinds of sounds and images of adventure, drama, comedy, war, suffering, and more are portrayed on the screen, and yet at the end of the day, the screen remains untouched and unaffected by any of those. Now, if I am to make a bold claim that this changeless ultimate observer is exactly who I really am, then I should have it here and now, would have had it at all times and at all places before, and will continue to have it at all times in the future too. But since this observer seems to be beyond all thoughts and experiences, and has never changed, so its movement cannot be registered, then if it is really who I am, then how can you and I test this claim, and for the lack of a better word, be this observer right here, right now? Also, simply because it is supposed to be I who we talk about, by definition it would have to be intimately me, and therefore cannot be far or something separate than me, or require any effort on my behalf to recognize it. Since it never changes and was therefore the same in the past, is the same in the present, and will remain the same in the future, it is beyond the concept of time, and hence it must also be possible to be this I in a fraction of a second, and without any special technique, meditation, purification, rituals, pilgrimage, or any other act of any kind. For the purpose of this video though, let us take a generous time frame of 10 seconds for this. And how? Just summarizing all we discussed today, this observer seems to not exactly be the body. So when I next say begin, let's shift our attention away from the body for these 10 seconds. And do not worry, your body will still be there when you return after those 10 seconds. Similarly, let's do the same for the senses, the mind, and the thoughts. Also, do not expect to have any experience either. And finally, drop the concept of having to give attention to anything or absence of things either. In essence, you and I would now together do nothing, expect nothing, and pay no attention to anything or absence of things for just these 10 seconds. With this being clear, let's try this for 10 seconds. Begin. What you just were and still are and will always be is who I exactly am. My best attempt to describe the experience of non-experiencing this I in words would be to call it the ultimate peace, silence, and freedom that is accessible to anyone, at any time, and at any place. I am beyond any thought, any experience, beyond the mind, and beyond any shape or form. I am beyond words too, so no truth can ever be spoken about me in any language. Only hints can be given to point in my direction. Everything and absence of things abides in me alone. I am that I am.